Hey guys, SGT here. It's time for another check-in with Ranting Andy Hoffman, the Director of Marketing over at Miles Franklin Precious Metals. Andy, welcome back. We haven't spoken with you since 2011, so happy 2012.
Yeah, that was Christmas time about. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming back. We have so much to talk about. There's been so much action in the silver and gold space just over the last month. It's really astounding. I was at a coin show just this past weekend, and they were selling silver eagles for about $35 an ounce, which was close to $5 over spot. And Andy, I didn't want to pay $5 over spot, so for the first time at a coin show, I didn't buy any, and I made a bad mistake because, we would have made up that premium in no time just over the past week. So what's your take on what's happening in the silver and gold space? It's very exciting. Eric Sprott's doing some exciting things with the PSLV fund. There's just so much to talk about. We've got your new rant, overt or covert, QE to infinity is here. Where would you like to begin?
Okay, well, we could start with those premiums you're talking about. Actually, one of the points I've been making for some time now is that I think the cartel is boxed in a way at the $30 and $50 levels in silver because, at least at Miles Franklin, we saw near record demand when silver was smashed below $30 briefly during what I call Operation PM Annihilation this fall, and also when it surged to $50 back in April. So it's kind of like they're in a box. Anytime, it's one of the few investments where you're going to see both fear and greed. So you see demand explode when it goes too high or too low. And based on what we saw this fall, it's pretty clear that $30 level, you're seeing the major physical buying come in. And then you mentioned the Eric Sprott deal. I put a piece out earlier this week called Admiral Spot because, in my view, Eric Sprott is the leader of the global movement to break the gold cartel. It was his PSLV offering in November of 2010, which started the surge up to $50 an ounce of silver. It's also what started the increased cartel attacks. I call it D-Day on November 9th, 2010. That was when silver went to $30 for the first time. He's easily not only the most vocal but the most influential, and he really wants to break them. And this deal he did last week couldn't have been better timed because we're already starting to see sentiment change. Now we have this FOMC decision a couple of days ago, which even in my book I was floored by because keep in mind it was only August, 5 months ago, when they announced that they were going to at least mid 2013. With their ZERP policy, and now, just 5 months later, and at a time when the government is telling you everything is great, and the night before Obama's in his speech saying the U.S. is looking great, it just took 5 months for them to go from mid-13 to at least 2015. So I think the climate right now for physical buying couldn't be better. Business has dramatically picked up in Miles Franklin this week since the FOMC, and I expect it to be a very crazy spring.
Now, in your latest rant, you write, overt or covert, QE to infinity is here. Let's talk a little bit about that because everybody was a bit shocked that Bernanke had basically announced that he's going to keep interest rates near zero right up through early 2014 or even beyond that. And our take at SGT Report was this is just another attempt to prop up the Ponzi scheme to get us through this November election. What legs do you think this really has, though, beyond the November election? And I think there's a case to be made that we could see a total economic collapse before the November election, as many have warned about. I personally think they're probably going to make this work right through 2012. And as somebody said, it might have been Jim Sinclair, James Turk, I'm not sure, but watch out for 2013. What's your take, Andy?
Well, I don't know about 2013. I certainly know that the election is a major issue, but then again, would they be doing anything different if it weren't an election year? Of course they'd still be printing money, and they'd still be, being stimulative with every way, shape, and form, whether it's the Fed swap facility, the ECB LTRO facility, you name it. I say to a lot of people the difference between 2008 and 2011, aside from the fact that things are much worse now, is that back in 2008, the government was taken by surprise when the economy fell apart. They were still in this kind of mode where they thought that they could do no wrong. We had real estate bubble, stocks were doing well, everything was doing well. So when the investment banks started falling and commodities and stock prices started falling, they really didn't know what to do. And so what they did was they actually looked to the Constitution. They asked for constitutional approval for TARP, for instance. They may have done it in a heavy-handed manner, but they at least were doing it the way that they were supposed to do. They would announce QE1 or QE2 because that's what they're supposed to do. But now they realize, well, wait a second, we could do all this stuff without telling you. Why do we want to say we're doing QE3 when it's just going to make the price of gold go up and it's going to reduce our credibility? Why do we want to go to Congress for approval of things when we could just do it without the approval? I mean, look at the war in Iraq, right? There was no approval for it, and there's been no backlash. So, we'll go into Libya, we'll go into Iran, we'll do whatever we want. So the fact is, the Fed has been doing all these things covertly for some time. We look at the $16 trillion of loans that they made out that we just found out about. How much more have they made? And now when they do things like the Fed swap operation with Europe, that's blatantly out there. It's off balance sheet because they call it swaps, not debt. But the fact is, they don't even care anymore. They're just doing whatever they want. And in the case of what they said on Wednesday with this FOMC decision, yeah, that's certainly politically motivated. It's no coincidence that it's right after the State of the Union address. But the fact is that these guys have created this system of this attitude, this mood of apathy and lethargy in the markets because they've been so dramatically manipulating them that they believe that they can just get through the election without anything happening. And like he's just said, I cannot believe we are going to get through 2012 without some backlash from at least what's going on in Europe and perhaps what's going on in here in Japan.
Well, you've nicely summarized the tyranny that we're facing, tyranny in the financial markets and tyranny beyond the financial markets, Andy. I mean, when you say they're essentially doing whatever they want without regard to feelings on the matter, let's take a look at SOPA. Let's take a look at PIPA. Let's talk about the NDAA S-1867, which allows them to declare the American quote-unquote homeland a battlefield and throw any one of us in a detention camp indefinitely without trial. Let's talk about the Enemy Expatriation Act. Things have really, I'd like to say that we've crossed the Rubicon here in terms of our liberties, and the only presidential candidate talking about any of these issues is the guy that helped us get an audit of the Fed, which revealed $16 trillion went to overseas international banks. The only guy talking about the NDAA, the only guy talking about these important issues to our very liberties is Ron Paul. What's your take on Ron Paul? What's your take on the State of the Union?
Okay, well, when you talk about without regard to Congress's feelings, Congress is just as lethargic and not involved in these decisions as anyone. It's really remarkable to see that the debt ceiling was, I write about this every day. It was such an incredible debacle when they raised it by $400 billion back in August. They just raised it by $1.2 trillion. No one cares. I've been writing every day. I'm looking every day for an article about it. No one cares anymore. Congress, you would think that the Republicans, for instance, would be all over attacking the Democratic government because the debt ceiling is going up because they want to, get in office. They say nothing. You would think that with this new Enter1 scandal, which just came out yesterday, $120 million of funding for one of Obama's green projects to build lithium-ion batteries in this country, which is insane because they're all built in China. And they're not even fighting against the Democrats anymore. They've just gone silent. And, of course, they're the ones who write the bills, such as SOPA and PIPA. And the National Defense Authorization Act you mentioned, which takes away our Fourth Amendment rights, passed in the Senate by 93-7. So increasingly, it's almost like, 5 months ago we were talking about this incredibly bipartisan Congress and the Republicans hate the Democrats and vice versa. Now they've both gone silent. They just both go along with anything that's being said. So it's I just can't comprehend how that could have changed so fast, other than to understand that they know where things are going, and there's no need to fight it. Just prepare themselves personally.
Hey guys, thanks for watching part 1, and don't miss part 2.